Members, we have quorum, so let's resume our meeting. I'll ask our clerk to say something about Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan's withdrawal of the motion based on Rule 39 on the chairman of FCR 2014-15 45. Over to our clerk. Thank you, Chairman. A moment ago, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan moved a motion in accordance with Rule 39 of our Rule FC procedure. Rule 39 doesn't mention whether after a debate on the adjournment motion has been conducted, how can the motion be disposed of. But in Rule 37, there's a general rule subject to the decisions of the committee made from time to time. Rules 29 to 35 of the Rules of Procedure shall apply with necessary modification to the proceedings of the committee in dealing with motions. And if we refer to Rule 35 bracket 2, which is applicable to this case, and that is when a motion has been moved, a motion or an amendment may be withdrawn at the request of the mover by leave of the council or committee of the whole council before the question is put thereon, if there's no dissenting voice. A motion or amendment which has been so withdrawn may be proposed again if in the case of a motion the notice required by these rules of procedure is given. Let me further explain. The clerk has referred to us the relevant rule, and that is Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan can withdraw the motion if there's no dissenting voice. But after it's been withdrawn, there's no way to prevent him from moving another motion, the same motion under Rule 39 again. So I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong. So Mr. Lee can move the motion again, and then there will be another debate. Everyone will speak for a minute. I'm not saying that Mr. Lee will do this, but I'm just saying that this has not been put to a vote. If it has been put to the vote, then this matter will come to a close. I'm not teaching members what should be done, but you should understand what the implications of your vote would be like. But this is just a waste of time, so I dissent. Since there is a dissenting voice, I'll put the motion to the vote. Will those in favor? A division has been claimed. The division bell will be rung for 5 minutes.
冇嘢啦。現在進行表決。
Voting begins. Voting begins. Before I announce the result, please check your votes. Voting is now closed and the result displayed. 1 for, 49 against. I declare the motion negative. Mr. Albert Chan, the floor is yours for the first round, 5 minutes. Are we adjourning the meeting? Or we have a quorum? I thought you adjourned the meeting. I've announced that you have the floor. You have 5 minutes. Let me have the 14 seconds back. No. With regard to the loans, the administration explain why it's not in the form of a direct allowance or subsidy. Many fishermen are finding it very difficult to carry on in terms of the declining catch from year to year. In terms of weight, the catch has been falling, and the size of catch is smaller and smaller. Those fishermen that I know are getting poorer and poorer. Now you offer them a loan, the loan has to be repaid, and there are so much expenses, so many expenses that they will shoulder. For innovation and R&D, you fund a lot of projects costing millions of dollars, and those projects cannot really create jobs. But these fishermen have been operating for generations. The government is so miserly, it's just willing to offer loans. Why? Why is so mean to the fishing folk? Are you not going to consider giving a direct subsidy to them? Undersecretary, the Fisheries Development Loan Fund has been with us for a long time. But because of the trawling ban, we want to provide some special low-interest loans to the fishermen. The fishermen understand this. Your question is why we don't provide a subsidy instead. Since the implementation of the trawling ban, we already gave an ex gratia payment to them. Well, it's not ex gratia. It's not something ex gratia in nature. What about the IT funds? Well, I'm angered by such remarks. They don't need your sympathy, your mercy, or your ex gratia allowance. Because of reclamation, the marine environment is now so chaotic and they suffer losses. You should compensate them. It's compensation, it's not actually ex gratia in nature. Is it that the DAB supports this alone will do, and therefore you don't give them a subsidy? Why are you so mean to fishermen and so generous with IT research funds? We also have another fund, Fishery Development Fund, but that would be for the purpose of supporting new forms of fisheries. And when I talk about the ex gratia allowance or grants, it's because we introduced the trawl ban. We understand that near shore fishermen were affected. That's why we offer the ex gratia grants. Oh, I'm not going to argue further with the AFCD on the definition of fisheries. As I said, in countries such as Taiwan, the governments would assist the fishermen with a host of measures, such as through the scientific development and so on and so forth. But now you take away their licenses, and the shrimp trawlers are no longer in business. 22 seconds on the Secretary for your reply. We have also got a sustainable fishery development fund. That will be taken up on that front. Please wait until the next turn. Ms. Quadimo, first round, you have 5 minutes. Well, you have said that this is ex gratia in nature. So this is done only half-heartedly. If you want to subsidize the fishery industry, do so. Don't just offer loans and ask them to repay the loans later. If it's a loan, it has to be repaid. And you talk about the trawl ban. And trawlers operating inshore would be banned under the trawl ban. We'd argue for 2 years over that ban. More than 1,000 trawlers were operating in Hong Kong, but only 900 odd got compensation. Some got as much as 6 million plus. So if it's a question of how much you get depends on how close you are to me. Most of them would only get 100,000, 200,000, and more than 100 receive nothing. If you pay them nothing, and then here you offer them loans, what kind of mentality is that? Can you update us on the latest situation with compensating the fishermen affected by the trawl ban? Let me reiterate that for those fishermen affected by the trawl ban, we have offered something one-off, ex gratia allowance, and if they surrender their permits voluntarily, there is also the repurchase of their vessels for those operating inshore, there will also be one-off assistance. For this loan arrangement, usually the interest is higher than what would be the case. For this particular case, we offer them low interest loans. This will last until the 31st of December 2015. So it's for a 2-year period. As for later situation with regard to the trawl band payment, I'll ask my colleague from the AFCD to say something. Because of the trawl ban, there's the ex gratia payment made to the affected vessel owners. More than 1,000 applications were approved earlier. And as the Undersecretary has said, we still have another scheme for the inshore fishermen. They can still submit their applications. We're talking about the same thing when it comes to compensation and ex gratia payment. How much has been paid to how many vessels? May we have some figures? The ex gratia payment is the part of the one-off assistance. There are two types: qualified inshore trawlers, and second, bigger trawlers which will not ordinarily fish in Hong Kong.
After processing by the Interdepartmental Working Group for coastal trawlers, 269 were approved. As for the trawlers that don't operate within Hong Kong waters, there are about 700 odd such big trawlers. Ms. Claudia Mo, do you have any follow-up action? And follow-up question? Of the qualified 269 trawlers, according to my understanding, the compensation and if they have, after paying out the compensation, if there's a balance, they can still be shared. And there are also who are not eligible. Is it the existing situation? Some are not given a cent. Some trawlers are not given a cent, but those who are given compensation will get more. Is it the case? In fact, both are qualified trawlers. As for large trawlers, the fixed amount of ex gratia payment is $150,000. As for coastal trawlers, depending on the impact, we give ex gratia payment. We have earmarked a sum for a group of fishermen. They have lodged their appeal with an appeal board. After the outcome has been decided, then the sum earmarked will be dispersed. Next is Mr. Wang Yokman. The FDLF applied for additional $800 million. In 2011, there were 4,000 fishermen, total 8,500 fishermen. Is really great that there is a representative in this council, and that's the evil of the functional constituency. 8,000 odd people form a constituency going against the interests of the majority. In paragraph 18 of the paper, it said that the loan has three purposes, and that covers developing aquaculture business and also switching to sustainable fishing. Of the 69 applicants, the majority apply for one-off building of a new fisherman so that they can fish in waters further from Hong Kong. As for aquafishing and leisure fishing, I don't know where is the starting point. Maybe Stephen Ho can explain what can the administration help and who are doing these aquaculture business and leisure fishing. As for sustainable fishing, who is doing that? The mainstream is still capture fishing. The administration is just leaving the fishermen to their destiny. Since there is a trawler ban, the government compensates them and give them money so that they can buy bigger boats. Leisure fishing and aquaculture are more complicated than going to fish in the seas. Because you need to have the technology, you need to deal with marketing, you need to deal with pricing. These are difficult issues to be resolved by the fishermen. Unless the functional constituency representative organize courses for the fishermen, but he doesn't do that. The general fisherman or ordinary fisherman cannot cope with that. The number of licensed aquaculture farms, aquaculture license was more than. I think there was a decline in license of aquafishing, and that accounted for about 8% of fresh alive marine fish. Most of the marine fish we eat are imported. Only 8% were produced locally. What sort of support does SARG give to aquaculture? Now this is the FDLF. Previously, there was the Sustainable Fishing Development Fund and also Sustainable Fishing Development Advisory Committee. Now you form many bodies. You have duplicated bureaucracy. What exactly are you doing? I still have more questions. I have to do filibustering. Now, with regard to the Sustainable Fishing Committee, it is to help fishermen to develop and switch to modern and sustainable fishing. The second objective is for conservation and helping the recovery of marine ecology and recovery of marine resources. As for the measures adopted by the administration to support aquaculture, we know that there are mariculture zones which are able to increase the capacity of fishing without damaging the marine ecology. Now we are helping the increase of marine capacity. In fact, marine culture capacity in Obuitong, in Wangwan, and Deep Bay, we have issued new marine fish aquaculture licenses. Perhaps the director can supplement. The director, with regard to aquaculture, apart from issuing new licenses in aquaculture zones to interested mariculturists, we also provide technology support. Let him finish. Your question can you can wait for the second round of questions. In terms of technology and training, the department has invested a lot of resources to help the mariculturists to improve their technology. In the beginning of this year, there was the Sustainable Fishery Development Fund, and the fund gives support to starting up aquaculture business. Mr. Leung Yiu Chung, 5 minutes, first round. In paragraph 4 of the paper, it is said that setting aside the loan amount already committed, the FDLF only has a balance of some 62.4 million available for disposal as at 31st of May 2014. This falls short of the amount required to meet the demand from the 37 remaining applications, let alone demand from any new applications that may come up in the course of time. That implies that there will be more applications. In paragraph 11, we are given a table. Inshore trawlers, 37 loans of $9 million, so the amount is 330 million. Larger trawlers, about 50 loans, 50 loans of about $9 million each, about $450 million. Altogether, the total adds up to $800 million. In Para 14, with regard to inshore trawlers, application can be made before the 31st of March 2015, and it is between the 1st of April 2015 to 31st December 2015. The application should be handled on a first-come, first-served basis. Among the 270 trawlers, inshore trawlers, some are single trawlers, some are double trawlers. The total added together should be 87 loans, 87 applications. You say is on a first-come, first-served basis. Some will be left out. So what's the point of having that scheme? That will be unfair. Somebody get it, somebody will not get it. And they will have to scramble for a place because it is on the first-come, first-served basis. The director can explain. Mr. Lai. With regard to paragraph 9, we divide the trawlers affected by trawler bans into two categories. The inshore trawlers do the fishing most of the time in the coastal waters of Hong Kong. There are about 270 such inshore trawlers. There are bigger trawlers which can go further away. They don't operate in Hong Kong waters, and the impact of trawler ban on them is smaller. According to Para 10, there are 710 larger trawlers. When we do the estimate, our view is that inshore trawlers will be suffering from a greater impact. Among the 270 trawlers, the amount of loans needed will be greater. Among the 270 trawlers, there are about 50 loan applications. As for larger trawlers, they generally operate outside Hong Kong waters. Among the 710 larger trawlers, about 10% or 71 need the support of the loan fund. As for the meaning of paragraph 14, we expect that inshore trawlers will suffer a greater impact, and we try to help inshore trawlers. We therefore propose to earmark $400 million for inshore trawlers. We give priority to inshore trawlers with regard to that $400 million. Now, after the deadline, if there is money left, then all the balance will be put in the overall pool. Under such circumstances, whether it is a larger trawler or an inshore trawler, its application will be handled according to a first-come, first-served basis. That's roughly the situation. Mr. Leung Yu-chung. Then people will have to scramble for a place in the queue. Is it appropriate? The second question is that you expect a 10% out of all the trawlers to make application for loans. Is it appropriate? If you underestimate the application, then will you come back for money again? As I said, the inshore trawlers will suffer more under the trawler ban. We want to help these trawlers as far as possible. We have set a deadline. If they don't apply before the deadline, then the money will go back to the pool, and it will be the application will be handled on a first-come, first-served basis. we make the estimate according to the current situation. There are many factors affecting the number of applications. We believe the estimate is a reasonable one. Next, Mr. Alan Leung. Mr. Leung Yu Chong, please wait in the second round. Your time has been exhausted. Mr. Alan Leung, I want to clarify several points with the administration. First, in paragraph 7, it said that the proposed amount of injections based on the best guesstimate by AFCD on the loan requirements. The actual loan demand is subject to the dynamic interaction of a number of variables. One of the variables is vessel construction cost and fuel price over time. Chairman, you may have noticed that recently, because of the production of oil by oil-producing countries, about half a year ago, when the Food and Health Panel discussed the paper, oil price was about $100 per barrel. Now the price of oil, crude oil, has fallen by half. Now, if fuel price has fallen by half, how will that affect the amount of loan, or how would that affect the amount of the loan fund? Mr. Lai, I think the price of fuel will affect the fishermen in respect of assessing their cost and whether they have the intention to apply for a loan. After they've applied for a loan, they also have the duty to repay the loan. The change in costs and prices will affect them. If there's a decline of oil price, then the fishermen will be more willing to borrow a loan. Alan Leung, I don't understand. They are more willing. What do you mean? They have more incentive to borrow, haven't they? Whether the fisherman decides to borrow a loan or not, he has to consider many factors. After he has borrowed money, after he has bought a boat, he has to operate, he has to pay wages, and he has to repay the loan. According to our experience, they have to consider competition, they have to consider their daily expenses and how their daily expenses vary. One thing they have to consider is oil price. That is a recurrent spending. If oil price is going up, then that will affect their income and expenditure. If oil price is expected to go up, they will have less incentive to borrow. On the contrary, if oil price goes down, if they expect oil price to go down, they are more willing to borrow. Yes, I now understand. Alan Leung. The fluctuation of oil price is not about 3% or 5%, but nearly 50%. Now you ask us to increase the loan fund by $810 million to $1,100 million from $290 million. Does the variation of oil price affect our consideration? Should we consider just $810 million or more than that because of the fluctuation, this big fluctuation of oil price? Now our loan has a tenure of 14 years. This is a long period. with regard to the variation of oil price, it is a short-term variation, and we really don't know which way it is to go. There are uncertainties. Since the repayment period is so long, the fishermen, in considering whether to borrow or not, will have to look longer or look further. And we do not see that it will affect our estimate. We therefore maintain that the present amount of injection is appropriate. Claudia Mo, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, concerning the trawler ban, you say eligible trawlers, there are 259. That is nothing new. In 2013, in fact, 2 years ago, on the 8th of October 2013, they mentioned 269 trawlers. So there has been no change. You mentioned an appeal board or appeal committee, and they can make an appeal. But the fishermen complained that there is no limit to the term of the appeal board members, and they can last until 2047. There are no professionals. They don't understand. They are really confusing. They say we have AFCD officers checking you at the typhoon shelter, and you were not found. The fishermen were not eloquent. They could not answer the questions.
I'd like to follow up on the question about the appeal board. How many vessels, vessel owners and fishermen lodged appeals but were rejected and they never came back? Do you have the statistics? Who will answer this? Mr. Lai? Mr. Chairman, the appeal board is chaired by an independent person. Both parties can put forth their arguments during the appeal proceedings. As far as I understand, the proceedings are still underway. At the moment, we don't yet have the results. Therefore, the figures requested by Ms. Claudia Mo stand at the previous level. Do you have any intention to assist the fishermen? Mr. Lai, perhaps I should say this. Well, the appeal board operates independently. You're not going to help. Okay. Earlier, I heard Stephen Ho say that he would like the opposition to be more cooperative with the government. That's wrong. The LegCo is here to monitor the government. Well, sometimes it's obvious that the government is bullying the fishermen, so he should voice out. If we cooperate with the government on everything, then loans are loans. There's nothing we need to say. Second round, Mr. Wang Yongman, 3 minutes. We have a sustainable development fund. We have a loan fund for fisheries, 90-odd items. Their nature are similar. In June 2013, in the panel, I also asked a question. The administration explained to me how the Fisheries Sustainable Development Fund is different from other funds. Well, there are so many departments and organizations operating so many things. How are they different from one another? Well, you are here to adopt makeshift solutions for them only. You are not assisting with sustainable development of the fishing industry. mariculture, leisure fishing, etc., have to be pegged with the tourism industry and the catering industry. If you've been to South Korea and Japan, you'll see that the fisherman's wharf is actually a place for catering businesses and tourism businesses. Well, they're actually supporting the fishing industry. In Hong Kong, at most, we have something, Castle Peak Bay, Sai Kung. And now you're driving people away. A fishing vessel costs you $10 million, and now you say you can lend money to them. That's all. So basically, they cannot develop the fishing industry. So I don't understand the letter table today. The letter asks us to be lenient and merciful, but this proposal from the administration is not going to help with sustainable development. You're talking about 8% of support, and live fishes, 8% of the consumption rate for live fishes. So the fishing industry must be linked with the tourism industry and the catering industry. So in Hong Kong, we don't even have a good enough fisherman's wharf. The sites you mentioned, like Tap One, won't be able to attract tourists. So the Advisory Committee on the Sustainable Development of Fisheries is actually cosmetic in nature. Nothing substantive came out from the Advisory Committee. Mr. Lang Yu-chung, when the administration answered my question on paragraph 10 of the paper, is explained that the administration estimates that there are some 50 inshore trawlers, and about 10% of the 710 larger trawlers are affected by the trawl ban. They would seek a loan to build a new vessel for fishing operations in distant waters. And then in paragraph 11, you have a table. If you add up the sums, you get a total of $810 million. I don't understand why only 50 inshore trawlers would come to apply. But here you only give us the figure of 37 in the table in paragraph 11. So why 10 or less? Why should you create such a tense atmosphere and environment such that the fishermen will have to queue up and be involved in this very keen competition? Well, let him answer the questions first, otherwise he will forget what you're asking. Well, very simple. Why 37? We deduct 13 from the 50. That is, with existing resources, we granted 13, so we get the remaining 37. For the bigger vessels, we use existing resources to grant approval for 21, and we have 50 outstanding. That's how we did the calculation. Well, I need more details from you. All right, your estimation of 50 trawlers and 10% of the 710 larger trawlers. I'd like to know on what basis you made those estimations. Mr. Lai, for the inshore trawlers, there's an analysis in paragraph 9. We know there are about 270 inshore trawlers. Some 100 are pair trawlers and stern trawlers. it would be less likely for the latter two types of inshore trawlers to seek loans for upgrading their vessels. So we think some vessel owners may be disturbed. So we'll try to assess the degree of impact. As for the estimates on the larger trawlers, as we said, usually they operate beyond Hong Kong waters, so they'll be subject to less impact. On that basis, we did some estimation and came up with a figure of about 10% would seek a loan to build a new vessel. Mr. Leung Kok Hong, your first round, 5 minutes. Mr. Chairman. The fisherman's representative is here. Fisherman's representative, there are 3 categories here. Deep sea mariculture, that should be easier. It's more difficult to fish via ocean-going vessels. Some years ago, my friend lost all his money. Well, I understand that you have this logbook. Well, he was told that that logbook could not be used in Africa. Probably he had not paid corruption money. And then he was told that he should come back to Hong Kong to have the logbook chopped, stamped. Now, this story indicates that sometimes you may be treated inhumanely. Now, I think you can answer this question. $810 million for aquaculture development, only $15 million, very little. Why is it so? All right, this official. Of the 710 larger trawlers, you estimate that about 10 of them will seek a loan to build a new vessel for fishing in distant waters. If you lend money to me, of course, I'll come and take it, even though the sum is meager. Well, you see, the branch managers of banks will call up customers to tell them that loans will be offered. So, the offspring of the fishermen, tell me why there's such an uneven distribution. Why did you make such a decision? Well, I think we would like to have a level of subvention that's more commensurate with the actual circumstances. You see, when we visited Thailand, we sometimes had seafood at a fisherman's wharf. Have you looked into all these details? Well, let them answer your questions first. You are incessantly asking questions. You have been repeating your questions. He was about to answer your questions already. Mr. Chairman, we looked at the record of the loan fund and looked at their experience. The demands from the aquaculture industry are less than those from the mariculture industry. The aquaculture industry can seek loans elsewhere. Well, I asked him whether he had actually boarded a fishing vessel to brave the waves and storms. I don't think he had done so. You can't compete with other jurisdictions for fishing in distant waters. Politically and militarily, we can only reap very little profit. If you ask the fishermen to switch to distant water fishing, you're actually pushing them to death. Well, once I drank and watched the Premier League of the UK, and then this young person told me that he studied oceanography at university. Do we have this discipline in Hong Kong? So if you don't have such a discipline, if you ask a fisherman to fish in distant waters, you're actually asking them to commit suicide. You've used up your 5 minutes. Please queue up for your second round. Don't spend all your 5 minutes on asking questions. Mr. Chen Chi-Chun, second round, 3 minutes. We just now, Mr. Albert Chan asked why not direct subsidy but loans. It's very difficult to answer Mr. Chan's question. If it is a direct subsidy, you say that CY Leung is buying votes from the egg and fish sector. So it's very difficult on the part of the government. Even when there's money, you have to study in what form you should subsidize them or support them. That's why they came up with loans. Well, Mr. Stephen Ho said that he would like this to be settled before the Lunar New Year. But the money won't be available before Lunar New Year. Now, let me ask the government this. If we want the money to actually go into the pockets of the fishermen before the Lunar New Year, what more procedures we have to go through? Are we going to have more meetings? Can we compress the timetable? Why don't you do all these earlier? Why don't you start all these procedures earlier? This is for the benefit of the fishermen. Under Secretary. Mr. Chan, some of the applications have already been vetted. Once we obtain support from the Finance Committee, we can pay them the money. Well, basically, the time is spent on vetting. For those not yet vetted, we'll expedite the vetting process. Mr. Chairman, I don't understand. Well, originally, they had the money. $200 million. You haven't used up the funds yet. But of course, the number of applicants will exhaust all your money. So you stop your vetting procedures because you don't have enough money for all the applicants. All right, today, if we approve this $810 million, with this new funding that you put into the big pool, when will you finish the vetting procedures? Under Secretary? Well, if we complete the vetting procedures, very soon we can give them the money. Well, is it that you can pay them the money immediately if we approve your proposal? I think 10 odd applications have been vetted. And another 10 odd nearing completion. Of course, for some cases, we're still vetting their particulars. I know, I mean the vetted cases. Well, at least 12 have been vetted. Another 10 are nearing completion. And the remaining cases are undergoing vetting. I don't think you have answered the question directly. Let me ask this supplementary question. Tell us how long the vetting time is. Number 2, if we approve the $810 million today, then even if you don't yet get the money, will you be bold enough to tell some more applicants that the money is coming, their applications will be approved? Can you tell us the time frame? vetting time, I'll defer to my departmental colleagues. The simple answer is, for those 12 cases that have been vetted, once the money is available, we can pay them. Mr. Wong, you don't understand my questions or our questions. For the existing 12 cases vetted, you already have money for them, right? No, not enough. All right, if today we approve your proposal, even if you don't get the money immediately, you can tell the outstanding cases that you've got the money, the applications will be approved. Yes, but what about those outstanding cases that have not yet been vetted or have not completed the vetting procedures? As Mr. Wong said, we still have to go through the panel. In just 1 to 2 weeks' time, we can do that. So 10 outstanding cases. How long will vetting take? Usually 1 to 2 months, depending on whether or not the applicants have furnished us with sufficient particulars. Next one, Mr. Albert Chan, second round, 3 minutes. Mr. Chairman, if we change loan to direct subsidy, I can tell Mr. Chen Chi-chun that I'll not criticize C.Y. Leung for electioneering. I won't blame him for offering money to the fishermen directly. Well, if through this paper loans will become direct subsidy, I'll definitely support this policy. I'll not criticize him for electioneering. Well, my concern about fishermen is no less than that of Mr. Stephen Ho. In Ma Wan and in other locations, I am very concerned about the fishermen. Very often I buy fish myself.
The government changed its policy some time ago and take the licenses back. The government should work out a plan for these fishermen so that they can continue to use their vessel for other purposes. Because they had to sell their vessels on the cheap, and many were sold to mainlanders. And so we wasted our fishing resources. And now you want to offer them a loan so that they can buy a new vessel. That's ridiculous. Hundreds of vessels could have been converted and helped these fishermen to continue with their fishing operation, and the fishery industry can continue. I don't know this scheme would backfire because there are so many uncertainties. How can you make sure that these fishermen will be able to sustain their living after you offer them a loan for new vessels? How can you ensure that they have a bright future? They are not going to get rich by just getting your loan. It's just like Mr. Xie asking people to go to the mainland for their career, and many people suffered. Under Secretary, we have many funds to help the fishermen, and there are measures too. We have a Fisheries Sustainable Committee, and the committees aims at helping fishermen to develop their operations and ensure sustainability. And there are also the loans for different purposes, for sustainable development, the adoption of high technology, and for training, and so on. We have been offering various kinds of assistance to fishermen. I hope you will not be so selective as regards your kindness, and just don't yell at me and speak so nicely to those people. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. The speaker's not coming through. Sorry, Mr. Sin Chung Kai is getting his first round. I'm not discriminating against you, Mr. Lee. I'll give you back the few seconds. It's said that the default rate is 1.5% in the footnote. For ocean-going vessels, the risk they face is higher than inshore operations, inshore vessels. Have you taken into account that the default rate would be higher if they are engaged in ocean-going operations? Mr. Lai? The bad debt ratio is calculated based on the track record in terms of the amount granted, the number of cases approved, and the bad debt, resultant bad debt from all these cases. In the past, we also offer loans to vessels going further away from Hong Kong, and we are talking about the waters in the South China Sea. And now some trawlers have to be re-equipped so that they can go to a similar area for their operations. So we believe we can base on past experience to estimate the bad debt rate. So this is a historical figure. In the past, did you differentiate between the ocean-going operations and other operations? Would that have would that make a difference with the bad debt ratio? As I've said in the past, the loan fund granted some loans to fishermen operating in South China Sea. And now the vessels we are talking about are somewhat bigger, and they will go farther away from Hong Kong, but mainly they will be operating in South China Sea, and so the difference will not be big. And for the new fishing vessels, they are better in terms of efficiency and operating performance. So we believe that this historical ratio will be appropriate. In Note 6, you talk about the period from 1960s up to now. In the past, the risk might be lower. Can you confirm that the risk has not increased in recent years? Because if in the distant past the risk was very low, then this ratio would be low for the entire period. You talk about there being no difference because it's South China Sea. Are you equating the ocean-going activities with South China Sea activities? As I said in the past, the vessels were usually wooden vessels. So in terms of seaworthiness, they were not as good as the ironclad vessels in terms of power, in terms of safety, modern vessels are safer and more efficient. What about the bad debt ratio for the past 5 years? Because this ratio is based on the period from 1960s until now. Because historical figures could be very low. In the past 5 years, the bad debt ratio is 0, and that is to say all loans granted were repaid. So that's a very good track record. As for ocean-going vessels, if we're talking about Hong Kong fishermen, we are mainly talking about the area in South China Sea. They may go to Shanmei, Shantou, or to Hainan Island, but mainly we're talking about mainland waters. Mr. Lee Chuk Yan, 3 minutes for a second round. I'm concerned that if we go on like this, all the 60 members of the EC representing the fishery industries will not be fishermen anymore. But of course, this is not my question. For inshore trawlers, they have to meet this deadline, the 31st of March 2015, which is drawing close. This was of course set in the past, and now we are considering the application. Can this deadline be extended, or is it really not necessary? You have this deadline put here. Is there sufficient time for inshore trawlers? Some of them are already, maybe not, may not have made up their mind right now. Many vessels are going to operate in South China Sea. Now you offer them loans. If they all go to South China Sea, then can the amount of catch be sustainable? All over the world, people are talking about sustainable fishery, and Chinese people must bear some responsibility. We consume too much fish. It's damaging the ecology. It's not sustainable. And particularly in the light of the global demand on fish. So maybe one day fishery resources will be depleted. It's already the case with inshore fishing. The water is now contaminated. Will the same problem happen to the region in South China Sea? Undersecretary? The first question is about the time, the deadline. On the 10th of June 2014, at the FSE panel, EH panel, this item got the support of members. We submitted the item in July last year, and that's why we set the deadline to be extended from the 31st of March to the 30th of June 2015. I'll defer to the Assistant Director for the second question. What the loans are offered for vessel replacement, the size of the entire fleet will remain the same. Mr. Leung Kok-hong, second round, you have 3 minutes. You want to save the fishery industry. Why is it that we have fewer and fewer fishermen? This proves that your policy has failed, and the number has been on the decline. Last time, you got 200 million plus. Now you want 800 million plus. How can you come up with such estimate? If it's a company, it would certainly fail. You thought you needed $200 million. Now you need another 800 million. You're lucky that it's not a bank loan. So, and a representative of the fishing folk Why did you allow them to apply for such a small sum last time? It's a problem of our own making. The estimate was wrong. So why do you want to encourage ocean-going fishing activities? I think Hong Kong fishermen would be facing many difficulties. A loan for a new vessel is just better than nothing. But if you offer you a loan to buy a new car, you will take it because it's better to have a car. You need to drive to work, but it doesn't mean that you can afford a car. Why can't we promote fish culture, aquaculture? I don't think the representative of fishermen can answer your questions. You should put the question to the officials. All right, dear officials, have you look into why the fish culture is not successful? Whether the fishermen would like to apply for a loan to do something, a lot depends on their plan. According to the paper, they are applying for loans to buy fishing vessels so that they can go further away from our waters. They are already there to do the fishing operations. They are not new entrants, and of course they want to stick to the industry that they are familiar with because of the confidence they have in the industry, and the risk is lower. But we also offer assistance if there are new entrants who wish to buy new vessels. Mr. Stephen Ho, 3 minutes. Many members have raised questions related to the fishery industry, so I will venture to respond to some of them to the best of my ability. There's a question why there are fewer licensed fish farms. Because of the 2 incidents of red tide, many fishermen went bankrupt. We should take up the issue on other occasions, for example, in our panels. Why is it that the trawling operations still represent the mainstream of the industry? Because different skills are required. You can catch fish doesn't mean that you can operate a fish farm. And then why is it that only 8% of fresh fish is supplied by local fishermen? It's because the statistics may be problematic. Many fishermen would call at a port on the mainland, and the catch will be regarded statistically as fish supplied from the mainland. And what about oceanic studies? Well, we don't have the resources to offer a university. There's a dedicated office to provide service to Hong Kong and Macau fishermen. For example, Jiao Tong University in Shanghai has been offering assistance. Of course, we would like the administration to offer some courses on fishery. I don't think we can establish a university for that purpose. How can the administration offer direct subsidies? The administration should come up with a law, not just for the fishery industries. Other industries may need the same. Mr. Albert Chan claims to be in contact with many fishermen. I don't think I I can reach out to more fishermen. Of course, if it's just Marwan and Changchow and Timon fishermen, they are the beneficiaries. They are also assisted under the loans fund. As for the requirement of first come, first serve, as I explained earlier, it's not fair to them if it's granted on the basis of drawing lots. Mr. Ho, from 2008 to this time, in the 2 terms of the Council, we approved many programs to compensate or to offer subsidies to fishery. We banned fishing in our marine parks. We offer assistance to fishermen during the moratorium period. How much money has been spent altogether, Under Secretary? In 2010, March 2010, there's the Committee on a Sustainable Fishery compiling a report. The committee Mr. Wong Yong-gan, the previous member, was on that committee. And the conclusions are interesting, which I would like to share with you. It said that in 2010, the catch became smaller instead of a deep sea fish. The fish was smaller because of overfishing. WTO also said that any subsidy to the fishery industry would not be in the long-term interest to the development of the fishery industry. The SAR government did not object to that. So the committee did not try to offer help to Hong Kong fishermen internationally. So why is it that there are so many views on the fishery? And it's said that we should promote fish culture, because overfishing would mean the dwindling amount of catch of deep sea fish.
Aquaculture has been developing very quickly. If you want fish to grow at the same rate in a natural environment as fast as the growth in human consumption of fish, that will be impossible. We have no objection to subsidizing or supporting aquaculture. The SecStaff Development or Sustainable Fishing Committee mentioned that offshore fishing is not favorable to sustainability. Why you now give loans to help fishermen to go ocean fishing instead of helping them to go into aquaculture? Thank you, Ms. Ho, for your question. In fact, we have a two-pronged approach. On one hand, we need to preserve marine ecology. We have the duty. We therefore ban trawling. After banning trawling, we think that we have the responsibility to help fishermen who are affected by the trawler ban. We want to help them to do something which they are familiar with, and therefore the loan fund is to achieve this objective. As for aquaculture, leisure fishing, we support all that. I said, therefore, that though we had ceased issuing licenses, after a review, we have found that some aquaculture zones are able to increase its capacity without harming marine ecology. Therefore, we have issued some more licenses. We are walking on two legs, so to speak, a two-pronged approach. Now it is said that the administration wants to maintain a suitable number of fishing boats. It is said that the number of fishing boats are declining in Hong Kong. The committee is of the view that limits should be, restrictions should be imposed on fishing boats joining the fishing industry. Now, then that goes against your policy if you lend money to the fishermen to build new fishing boats. Now, what is your objective? Are you going to keep the number of fishermen? Will the loan increase the number of fishing boats? It's a lie. Now, in Hong Kong, in 2012, there was an amendment to the law. We established a local fishing vessel registration system. After registering all the local fishing boats at that time, we will not entertain registering new fishing boats. When they fish in the South China Sea, they are also subject to control measures. The number of fishing vessels and the horsepowers cannot be increased. Even if there are new boats, these new boats can only be built after the old boats are demolished. In terms of number of fishing boats and in terms of horsepower, there is no increase. Next, Mr. Leung, Alan Leung, 3 minutes. The second round. This time, the administration applies for additional funding. It is the result of an underestimation last time. I have a question for paragraph 11, which is the overall estimate put in the form of a table. A, inshore trawlers, 37 loans of $9 million each. B, larger trawlers, 50 loans of about $90 million each. Now, there is a footnote, 71 minus 21 loans. How do you arrive at these numbers? Is it pure guesstimate? The question has been answered. My apologies. Maybe I was away at that time. Oh, okay, then let me ask my next question. Yeah. It said demand for loans to carry out projects that will reduce the carbon footprint of fishing operations or for the development of aquaculture business. Why 30 million, not 50 million or 350 million? The director. The estimate is based on our loan record. We estimate the number of loans and we estimate the amount of loan. Usually the amount of loan is less than building a new boat. Building a new boat requires $10 million and they will borrow $9 million from us. As for reducing carbon footprint or for going into aquaculture generally, they will borrow about $1 million or less. We estimate that the number of loans will be less in comparison with the number of boats. Therefore, we come up with $30 million. That doesn't look scientific. Mr. Leung Yiu-chung told me that he asked a question on paragraph A and B, but the answer was not satisfactory. Now, if the estimate is not scientific, then will the administration come back again for more money? Probably yes. And therefore, we always have supplementary funding. The director, did you ask for supplementary funding in the past? Yes, we did make injections. In 2006, if I can recall correctly, the injection was up to $290 million. This is the second injection. As I said, the estimate is based on many factors. And it is hard to be very precise or scientific. We can only make an estimate within available information. Leung Yiu Chung asked for a third round, and after he has asked his question, then we will adjourn the meeting and we will study this item again next week. Mr. Leung Yiu Chung. I want to follow the question up. The question is asked by Mr. Leung. It is not a scientific estimate. It is just a guesstimate. They just plug a number out of thin air. Now 270 boats, and then you choose 50. 710 boats, you take 10%, a round number. It's not scientific. There is no objective basis. My worry is that there will be supplementary injections. Why can't you estimate a bigger number? I don't assume there will be any abuse because you really need to vet the applications. Why you need a first-come, first-serve arrangement? Why you put them in difficulty? If you come back for further injection, then it will take time. Those waiting at the end of the queue will have to wait much longer. Why can't you apply for more money? Just one more boat will cost you another $9 million. In fact, the director has explained that before. Now, please repeat your answer then. It is difficult to make a scientific estimate, but it doesn't mean that the estimate is groundless. Now, we have different categories, and we consider the extent of the trawler ban on each category, and then we make the estimate. After the approval by this council, there may be further application for loans. We have reserved some money. Say if the fund is $810 million, then there is a reserve for further loan applications. This is a reasonable arrangement. All right, we end our discussion today. Thank you.